and welcome to the first panel of the Innovation Festival. We're so honored that all of you are here for this conversation. I'm very excited about it, personally. I did a big cover story about Sephora that came out earlier this year, and I'm so pleased to be here with Artemis Patrick. So everybody here, I'm sure, knows Sephora as this amazing place to shop. The brand curates the most amazing brands and products and makes the in-store experience so fun. But Sephora is also woven into so many other aspects of our culture. So this year, it partnered with Hulu to create Faces of Music, a documentary exploring the intersection of self-expression between beauty and music. It also partnered with several women's sports teams from the WNBA's Golden State Valkyries and Unrivaled, the newest women's basketball league that is created to offer WNBA players higher salaries and resources during the off-season. And it also hosts this amazing beauty festival called Sephoria that I had the pleasure of going and taking part in for my story. So I'm really happy to be here with Artemis to talk about how you're thinking about Sephora as more than a retailer and as a cultural force. So yeah, I would love to start with that question. We think of makeup when we think about Sephora, but you're trying to broaden our understanding of what Sephora is.
For sure.
So in your mind, what would you like Sephora to represent to us?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here, Liz. So yeah, I mean, what I would say, it always goes back to our roots and our DNA. So when Sephora first came to the US in the late 90s, nobody wanted to work with us. We were sort of this, oddball beauty retailer that had open sell counters, and a lot of the big strategics were working with department stores. And so just out of sheer survival, we started working with these little indie brands, brands that now you know and love, like Stila and Too Faced and Tarte, Urban Decay, brands that really did not have an outlet to tell their beautiful stories and to share their beauty with everyone. So I think that's kind of stuck with us over the years. It's funny, we still think of ourselves as the little guy, and we still think that for us, it really is about belonging, and everything that we do goes back to that. And actually, I was thinking about this. My daughter recently started high school, and the principal, gave this great speech, and she started by saying, "I don't want you guys to fit in, I want you to belong." And I think that that is so important, and it's something that we think about every single day, because coming in from, as outsiders and not being accepted initially, and all these brand founders that had this amazing story to tell that had no way to tell it, we do feel that we have a tremendous opportunity and also responsibility, now that we are as big as we are, to share these stories. And so as you think about exactly all the things that you mentioned, it's so much more than just a place to buy makeup. We do believe that it's a place that people can come and be themselves and express themselves and not fit in, but truly belong.
I love that. That's a beautiful distinction. So let's talk about the sports partnerships, which I think came as a little bit of a surprise to people. Why was it so important for you to support female athletes?
For sure. I mean, listen, I think that for so long, women's athletes are not looked at as, there isn't a crossover between, athletes and beauty, which is very bizarre, because ultimately beauty is a form of self-expression and about showing your confidence and your identity. So why doesn't that play into women's sports? So we started to think about how we wanted to participate, because it's also gone much deeper than just sports fans. I mean, I've been to the Golden State Valkyries game at Chase Center, San Francisco, and it is unbelievable. I mean, it's communities, it's grandmothers and aunts and uncles and kids, and it's just so incredible. And we kind of, we saw that developing and thought we really want to be part of the conversation. But for us, it was critical that it wasn't just a logo slap. So that's why we wanted to get in early. And so the first one was, as you mentioned, Unrivaled. And for those of you that don't know, Unrivaled is 3-on-3 women's basketball league that is player owned. And why this is important is because, unfortunately, women's basketball players during the off season don't get paid as much as men, and so they often have to leave the United States and leave their families to go and play. And this Unrivaled was created so that women's players can stay stateside and still make as much as their male counterparts. It was a bit of a risk to go. It's a brand new league. It had its inaugural season in January, and it was incredible. And so we realized that there was something there. And again, for us, it wasn't just being a sponsor. It was truly getting in. It's in the glam room. We're there at, the practices. For example, with the Valkyries, we just created a content series that'll be launching soon that tells the story of some of the players from the Valkyries and how they grew up. And we really think this is so important because, again, we feel we have a responsibility to share these stories so that the next generation of women athletes can be inspired and think, I can do it too. And also, beyond just being a beauty sponsor, we wanted to be a founding partner. We wanted to be more than just the place you do the glam and really take the stories beyond what happens at the games. So, for example, we're not just the beauty sponsor, but also a founding partner of the Toronto Tempo, which is the first WNBA league in Canada, and that'll kick off next spring. So it's really just about getting in there early and creating that partnership.
I think the concept of these glam rooms is so actually radical and revolutionary in some ways, right? Because I think that there's a way in which we don't think about female athletes as interested in beauty. And that's probably because we have a very narrow sense of what beauty means, right? And what it represents in our culture. So tell me a little bit about, this is kind of a deep, profound existential question, but like how you're trying to sort of like redefine what beauty can be.
Yeah, it definitely goes back to, again, self-expression, right? And we don't think that there's one way of being beautiful and feeling beautiful. It's about how you want to express yourself, right? And so even if you think about another sports partnership we did just recently, which, again, we like to surprise people, was the AUSL, the Athletes United Softball League. And, there's a lot around, softball hair, the braids and all this cool content around how you wear your hair when you're playing softball and how you put the helmet on. Like, it's really, really cool. And so we thought, why not tell those stories? So it's just one little way of expressing, your own way of how you think about beauty, but we like to sort of surprise people in how we show up.
Yeah. So we're going to pivot a little bit from sports to music. So for those of us here who haven't seen it, tell us a little bit about what the Faces of Music is and why this was important for you to participate in.
Yeah, and actually this Faces of Music with Hulu and Live Nation, it was not our first foray into music. In 2023, we actually launched Sephora Sounds, which is a collective of young emerging musicians who are underrepresented. And right now we have 80 musicians in this collective, and we leverage their music on social and other ways to sort of get their voices out there. So this basically started a couple of years ago. And then we had this great opportunity to do this Hulu documentary featuring 3 incredible artists, Victoria Monet, Becky G, and Chapel Roan. And in this series, each one, and they're very, very different, talk about how they use beauty to express themselves and how that connects back to their music. So it's really, really cool. Like, you see Chapel Roan doing her own makeup. The before and after is unbelievable. And she talks about how beauty really has affected her confidence and how she uses makeup as a way to express herself. And in all of these, in all 3 documentaries, we also did feature the stylists and the artists, because it was also important for us, for people to see the people behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I'm seeing this kind of theme through all the work that you're doing, where you're this huge player now in the beauty world, but you're always kind of looking to support underdogs throughout. Is that something that you?
If you think about sort of our brands that we've launched, and of course we have a lot of the heritage brands are so incredibly important to our business, but it goes back to being brand builders and really giving voices to these brands that would have had no other way of getting their distribution out there.
Yeah, that was a big part of the story that I wrote, which came out earlier this year. So as part of it, I had an opportunity to go visit Sephoria, as I mentioned, which was this kind of amazing, immersive beauty festival. But it was an opportunity to kind of get into all of the various brands that you put on your shelves. So I have a couple of questions about that. So first of all, tell me a little bit about why you wanted to launch this festival. But then I also kind of want to hear a little bit more. I want everybody here to hear a little bit more about, the relationships that you have with these individual brands, because I think it's a little bit, it was interesting for me to hear about.
Yeah.
But let's start with Sephoria.
Sure.
Tell me about that, why you wanted to launch this
Sure.
really fun festival.
Well, I mean, listen, we know that the stores are fun, and we wanted to continue to have them be fun. And what happens in those four walls is super exciting. And you kind of feel, you walk in, you hear the music, you're trying the product, and we thought there's something bigger than just these four walls. So in 2018, we launched Sephoria, which is really an immersive experience around beauty. And it was in Los Angeles, was our first one. And what I would say is there was a lot of there were some brand fairs out there, and today there's still what I would say sort of trade show type experiences, which is great. But for us, it went so much beyond that. I remember that first 2018 Sephora, we had Billie Eilish there. It was just, because again, it was her self-expression about beauty. So, but we had
Mindy Kaling walked
Mindy
in
Kaling
for the one that I was at.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's where the running.
And she was a participant. She wasn't
She was a
there as a
participant.
celebrity. She
Yes.
just wanted to be there.
That is where the love and the connection for Running Point actually came in, which is a whole another story. But so yeah, she's a big fan, and she's actually an investor in one of our Accelerate brands, which is really exciting. But so in 2018, we did this event, and it wasn't just having products there, and we did cool things like engraving and things like that, but it was really an immersive experience. So we had master classes from incredible artists. We had places where you could play with, create content, so you can put it on social. We really wanted to bring that experience of not just playing with product, but also teaching about how you use the product. And so it was an incredible event. We were so excited to keep going, and then the pandemic happened. So we decided actually to take it virtual, and I couldn't believe the number of people that participated in the virtual. So we thought there's something there as well, and so we've really evolved it to a little bit of both, but we're very excited for the next one. That'll be spring of next year, location to be announced, but the last one that you went to, we sold 8,000 tickets to the event.
Yeah, and there was a hurricane too, and people just showed up. They were like, we're not going to miss this.
We so far have not, and then the year before I was in New York when it was that crazy rainstorm.
Right, so I'm seeing a connection here.
We're hoping that the next one, we're picking somewhere where there has not been any weather issues in the last 20 years. So not sure where we're going, but.
Yeah, well, a very powerful brand. But I think one interesting thing to me as I was walking through this was that these brands have a very intimate relationship with Sephora. And I feel like that is kind of what kind of pulls the whole experience together. These are brands that have worked with you, that understand your customer. And as I was writing the story, I realized that actually you're not just going out there and plucking brands, right? You think of these relationships as very serious. Yeah. So why don't you share a little bit about kind of what it means to come into the Sephora ecosystem?
Yeah, I think for us, again, it goes back to the DNA in the beginning where we do feel a responsibility to tell the brand stories. And so we do feel personally responsible for the brand's success. We have, we talk about competition. For us, the biggest thing is our merchants. I've been at Sephora for almost 20 years, and many of the merchants that I, work with are still there today. I mean, they are truly brand builders. You can't just hire that. That's someone that, deeply feels for the brand. And so the stories, we love the stories of the founders that come. I have so many. When I think about like Vicky Tsai, who created Tatcha, who sold her engagement ring so that she could start, and she started with these little blotting powders. And we thought, wow, there's really something here about the story of Japanese skincare and how people are living in Japan. It goes so much beyond the product. It's also their lifestyle and the story she wanted to tell. We wanted to be an outlet for her to tell that story. But I have so many stories like that, like Mario, Makeup by Mario. His actual first job was at Sephora over 20 years ago, and he said it was the first place where he truly felt like he could be himself.
And for those of you who don't know, Mario ended up being Kim Kardashian's personal makeup artist and helped kind of define that look. So.
Right, and now he's one of our largest brands, Makeup by Mario. So, if you think about Tiffany Masterson, who created Drunk Elephant. I mean, she's a housewife in Houston with 4 kids who just was not having good skin issues. And she was like, there's something here, I need to dig into this. And she came to us with a facial, it's like literally a facial bar. And we were like, that's cool, but like, can we go a little bit bigger? And Drunk Elephant was born. So we do feel like we have this personal, again, responsibility for the brands to tell their stories, because the ones that are coming to us that we really love are ones who believe passionately and deeply that the world needs their product. And we want to make sure we help them.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The other thing that I noticed was that, there were so many trends that come up in the beauty world. Like there was a focus on fragrance recently. Back in the day, there were things like contouring. There was a lot of focus on diversifying palettes. And so sometimes I think that, these are sort of things that are organically happening in the culture. But as I was writing the story, I thought a lot about how Sephora is both identifying these trends, but also sometimes cultivating them, right? So talk to us a little bit about how Sephora is part of the beauty trends that are happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples of this too, but it usually just starts with a conversation with a brand that has an interesting idea, an interesting story. And we think about, again, like, we're consumers. I mean, I'm a VIB Rouge. It's a problem. Like, we are, and I get so much product. I don't understand how I'm a Rouge, but I mean, this is how all our merchants are. We deeply love the product and think about what are our needs. So like one example is I remember being this is when I was in merchandising, and I was in a brand meeting with a brand called Oscar Blondie at the time. He's a hairstylist in New York. And he was like, women don't need to wash their hair every day. And I have this powder, and I think it'd be really good if we just, and we were like, oh my gosh, we didn't know we needed this. And so really we worked with him. There was other brands that came, and then we created the story and the category around it. And so I always say, the sum of the parts make the category.
Dry shampoo.
And dry shampoo.
We all use all the time
now. And how
now.
did we live without dry shampoo before this, right?
Oh my gosh,
Exactly.
all the time we wasted washing our hair.
Exactly. So it usually comes from a brand, and then we basically bring that category together. But it also sometimes comes from our own needs as well. Like, gosh, I really wish I had X, Y, and Z. And then we work with a brand that is maybe it's authentic to them, because we don't want to create competition. For us, it's to say, okay, what makes sense for this brand is not the same that makes sense for that brand, and then we'll work and partner with the brand.
And I mean, diversifying the palette. So personally, as a consumer, I'm very grateful that there's much more diversity now in terms of products for hair and for skin. But I feel like Sephora was a very important part of that process. So would you just tell us a little bit about, why diversity has been such an important part of what you do?
I mean, listen, I think it's just common sense, right? Because beauty is deeply personal. And when you think about there's no reason why the brand founders that we are help promoting shouldn't look like the people who they serve. There's no reason why people in our stores shouldn't look like the people who they serve. So it's always been a little bit odd to me. And I mean, as someone who grew up with curly textured hair and could never find the right product, well, that's because nobody who looked like me was making product for people like me. And so I feel it's business critical, and I just think it's common sense.
Absolutely. So one thing that I noticed was that, this Sephoria was this kind of really amazing, fun experience. It was really fun, guys. It was like one of my best reporting trips I've had to do. All the products I tried and brought home with me. But when I came back and I started just visiting Sephora stores, it occurred to me that really Sephora stores are kind of a microcosm of what was happening at Sephoria. And that's really important because, over the last decade or so, we've seen foot traffic to retailers fall, and then consumers have started coming back to stores, but the store experience in many retailers is kind of stayed stagnant.
Yeah.
And I think the consumer wants more,
Yep.
and they're getting that at Sephora. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing with that in-store experience.
For sure. I think it's threefold. So first of all, it starts and ends with our beauty advisors. So we have 30,000 incredible, unbiased, beauty passionate advisors across North America. And what's really important for us is, again, from day one, unbiased. They're trained on the products, and they can recommend whatever they want, right? And it's never been about commissions or anything like that. And so we put a lot into education and training, a lot. And I think that hopefully it shows when you're in a Sephora store, because it is important for us to make sure that we recommend the product that best suits you as a consumer. So starts and ends with that. They are so passionate, and it's why my happy place is going to visit stores. Whenever, if you're kind of down, just pop into a Sephora. They just make you happy.
I was going to say same.
Yeah, exactly. And if you watch Running Point, Kate Hudson says nothing bad happens at Sephora. We literally now, it's like our mantra. We're always like, oh, nothing bad happens at Sephora. So definitely the beauty advisors. I would also say in the way that we've leveraged technology. So we've never thought about technology as a way to replace that experience, but really to enhance the consumer and the beauty advisor experience. So for example, we have a proprietary skin scan that we launched years ago, over a decade ago. And it's a tool that basically can go to your skin, and they use it to make recommendations for foundation. It actually leverages AI to not just give you the product that is best for your skin type or for, for your skin shade, but also leverages AI to be what's the likelihood, right? And looking back at what people liked, we also ask questions. Are you going, is it summertime? You want light foundation, you want a heavier foundation. So it also gives skincare recommendations as well. So think about this. We do 100,000 scans a week. 100,000 scans a week, and we have a 70% conversion rate. So that's another way that it's no joke. I always have to double check the numbers. I'm like, somebody's lying to me. But I have checked it for 2 years. It's been tracking. And we see it, and we collect all that data, and then we leverage that data to make sure that then we personalize all the email messages and SMSs to you. We collect what samples you like so that we can then make sure to say, hey, you tried this sample. Do you want to try? Or this thing's on sale. You tried it. So it's a very personalized experience, and we leverage all that data to make the experience really seamless. And then I would just say the stores themselves. So about a year ago, we embarked on a pretty ambitious project to refurbish every single one of our stores. We have over 720 across North America. And we're over 25 years old in the US, we're over 20 years old in Canada, so it was time. And so we began on this journey, and by the end of next year, we'll have about 45%, including our new stores, completed. And it's really about having the experience be the same. Whether you're here in New York, you're Boise, Idaho, or you're in Toronto, we want the experience to be the same. And we think our beauty advisors also deserve new, freshened up stores. And so there's a lot of cool things around it. We have a new beauty studio that's off to the side, not right in the front. Guess what? Turns out most people don't want to have their brows waxed in the window. So moved it over to the side, lit it up, and really cool spa, comfy chairs. We have a great fragrance area that's really beautiful with beautiful tables to tell the stories. We moved hair to the front because it turned out people didn't even know we carried hair. We have a hair tools section. We have next big thing in makeup and skincare and hair, so you can go to test out some of the new hot trending brands. We have a much brighter and better minis to go because we know people want to try and trial. So we essentially increased the assortment by 30%. So it's really, really cool. And it's all the new stores look like that. And then if you want to see kind of a refurbished store, if you're here in New York, we redid our Flatiron store recently as well as Soho. And then if you want to see a new store that looks like that, we have 2 new stores, one at 175 Broadway and another in West Manhattan near the Whole Foods at Hudson Yards. So go and check it out if you're here. That's the future of the Sephora store.
Okay, I'm thinking through my schedule today. I think I'm going to be able to
Okay,
make it to all of them.
Okay,
so yes, that sounds great.
They'll be like, why did those stores go up in traffic all of a sudden on September? Yeah.
But one interesting point that you made there about the skin scans, and this was something really fascinating to me as we were working on the story, was that you're also using all of the skin scan data to make sure that your customers are getting the products they need. So if you're seeing any gaps in terms of literally like foundation coverage.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. So we actually also leverage the skin scan data to give it back to our exclusive brands to share what undertones we're missing, and they have developed shades based on that feedback. So it's pretty cool.
Amazing. Yeah, and so finally, I think what's interesting is that we've talked a lot about the in-store experience, but it's really important for all retailers today to be, multi-platform, right? And so it's really cool that Sephora is also showing up online. You have like a vast network of content creators who are, in your orbit. Tell us a little bit about how you're trying to translate the in-store experience, that kind of magic that we experience online.
Yeah. So we were very early on the e-commerce space, so we launched our website in the early 90s, and we've always thought about digital as just another way for the consumer to shop. So if you want convenience, we have incredible partnership with DoorDash and Instacart. We recently announced our partnership with Uber Eats. We have buy online, pick up in store. So there's great ways to sort of experience.
Sometimes you need that mascara like in an hour.
Exactly. Yes, it's been wildly successful in just the week that it launched. So it's really, really exciting. So we really think of digital as just another way to offering the consumer access to beauty. But to your point on influencers and content creators, so years back we launched the Sephora Squad, which is an incredible group of content creators. We only can take about 50 per year, so we have about 300 over the last 6 years of alumni and existing ones, and it's very much a bespoke program for them. It's very, very hands-on to create content for many of our brands. It's super cool. Well, this last year, we put the applications out for Sephora Squad, and we got 14,000 applications. And we thought, okay, this is the problem, that we're not able to really leverage these amazing content creators. So I'm very excited to share publicly here for the first time, actually, that this next month, we'll be launching My Sephora Storefront, which is a creator platform where content creators and influencers can create their own shoppable storefront on Sephora.com. And the difference between us and other affiliate programs is it truly is integrated into Sephora.com. So whether it's the app, desktop, or mobile, they can just go on, they create it, and it's shoppable and it's a very seamless experience, and it's very, very authentic for both the creator and the consumer. So we're very, very excited about that. We're in alpha right now and just invited squad members to help us test it out. It's going incredibly well. So this next month we'll be doing a full launch.
You heard it here first, folks. We like to break news here at the festival. This is really exciting. But I guess to close, I think what's so amazing about your network of creators is really how diverse they are. I think that that's really important, because I think one theme that I'm hearing here is that, as a beauty retailer, you have the ability to shape people's perception of beauty, right? Which has been this historically a very oppressive concept that, has weighed on us. But you're trying to redefine it and think about it differently and help us sort of think about beauty differently, right? So perhaps you can end on that note. I think your creators are a manifestation of all of this. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it really is about having that, whatever the consumer needs, the diverse brand portfolio. I mean, we've had some recent launches, you probably heard of some of them, that really tell different stories depending on generations. And it's funny, there was, people talk about Gen Z, and Gen Z is super important. We know 2/3 of Gen Z, still love shopping in stores, and recently had a big launch with a younger brand. But also, we also just launched Wise from Molly Sims, who goes after the Gen Xers like me, who really want beauty, and we're like, where do we spend our money? Or Sarah Creel, who has incredible products for more mature skin. So we really are trying to think about diversity, and again, not just as shades or gender or anything, it's also age. So that's really, really important to us too. And the other thing in terms of diversity is really also making sure that we know that, for example, makeup artistry can be a little bit intimidating, right? And so gone are the olden days of makeup artistry where it's, hours and hours and you have to be a professional. And so some of the brands that we've launched recently, like MPH by Mary Phillips, we absolutely love her, and she has this really cool underpainting technique. I'm having a Zoom with her so she can show me how to do it. But it's really not complicated. If you go to her product page, there's user-generated content that we share that you can learn to do it yourself. And so we're just trying to really expand that notion of diversity, right? Diversity also means my skill set on how I like using makeup, or how many products do I want to use in a skincare routine. So we continue to try to broaden that. And also, just to end to your point, on a really exciting launch that we just had this last weekend, which was the Hailey Bieber Rhode Beauty launch, which was the most successful launch in our history. During the opening weekend, we sold 192 Rhode products per minute.
Wow.
It was
a lot of
bananas. But what I think that shows too is, listen, I mean, Hailey Bieber had an incredible incredibly powerful direct-to-consumer business. So what does that say to you, right? And we did not, in fact, her business was better in that opening weekend. So we didn't, it didn't hurt her sales. And so what Sephora allowed people to do is to actually try and test and feel the product, that they had been hearing about. So listen, I mean, we go back to, my boss always says, I love it. He's like, retail's not dead, boring retail is dead. And so we just try our best to create that fun environment for everyone who wants to express themselves through beauty.
Yeah, and personally, thank you for creating one of the happy places in my life that I go to with my 2 little girls. Yeah, and so thank you so much for sharing all of this with all of us. And have a wonderful rest of the day today with all your panels. Thank you so much.